Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about militia security, okay? And what that's about is keeping our militia team safe when they're doing other things besides fighting communists. So for those of you new to the channel, I've been doing a video series on the movie Red Dawn. It's a 1980s movie. The Soviets and the Cubans have invaded the United States. They're occupying half of it, and we have people behind enemy lines forming militia teams to fight the communists. Okay, so I've been doing a video series, and I'm going to put a link in the comment section with a playlist of all the videos I've done to date that you guys can check out. So I've been doing these videos about what would be realistic militia tactics that would be useful in that type of alternate reality. Okay, so in this video, like I said, we're going to be talking about militia security. And that's part of militia logistics. Okay, and in a prior video, I said that logistics is information, security, and supplies. And in this video, we're talking about the security. And the first consideration of our militia team, okay, is where's the base going to be? Okay, now the base can very well be wherever the militia commander happens to be standing. But they're still going to be using a series of safe houses, of campsites, of places where they would be storing their supplies. So the question becomes: do we want our base to be close to the Soviets, or do we want it far off in an isolated area? Okay, and there's considerations. Okay. Either way, okay, there's some considerations that we're going to have if we're staying close to the Soviets, and some considerations if we're going to be off in an isolated area. The first two is if we're close to the Soviets, we have easier access to information and supplies. Okay, information, we might be observing it ourselves directly, or we may be getting it from civilians in the area. Okay. And the same thing with supplies. We might be getting the supplies, directly from the Soviets through, attacks that we execute, or we might be getting it through the civilian population in the area. The Soviets most likely are going to establish their base in a populated area, okay, because they're looking for resources. Okay, they're going to put their base close to the resources. They're going to put it in an area where they have access to materials and people. Okay. From the people, they're probably looking for labor, either voluntary labor or involuntary labor, however it's most efficient for them to get it. Also, they're going to want to be in populated areas so that they can control the civilian population, so that there's no uprising against them. If they're far away from the civilian populations, now these civilians are most likely going to, they're going to be able to form up into larger militia units to fight the Soviets. So by being close to them, they can keep an eye on them. So that's the reason why the Soviets are likely to put their bases in populated areas. Okay, they may have a few that are in isolated areas for specific reasons, like for training purposes or whatever. But most likely, they're going to be situating their bases close to populated areas. Okay, now if we choose to go to an isolated area, okay, we have the benefit of security. Okay, as far as our militia team, we're far off away. We're not close to them. They can't see us, okay, as easy. They can't see us as easy. But the problem now becomes, is travel, right? If we're going to, if the Soviet base is far away from our position, we have to travel there. We have to execute our attack, and now we have to travel back. Okay, if it's a supply raid, now we got to bring all these supplies back with us. Okay, so that's one of the problems with being in an isolated area. I mean, we do have the immediate benefit of security in that we're just far away and they can't see us, but we have the disadvantage in that it's more difficult for us to do the things that we want to do, which is fight the Soviets. Okay. Now the thing with security, there's two extremes to this really. On the one hand, we want our security to be tight enough so that the Soviets can't infiltrate us and get information, find out who we are and where our family members are. Okay, so we want it to be tight enough so the Soviets can't get that information. But by the same token, we don't want it so tight that we're crippled. Okay, that we can't function as a militia team. And that can be a problem. Okay, if there's a constant mistrust between each other, that hey, maybe this person's a traitor or that person's a traitor, or maybe that person was compromised, we're not going to be that effective. So we have to find the right balance. The team commander is going to want to consult his militia team, and everybody is probably going to want to agree to certain policies and procedures. For example, and I mentioned this in previous videos, if you have a team, if people, for example, leave the team, when they come back, the possibility that they may have been compromised is given, right? So everybody that comes back to the team will be subject to a search, for, let's say, for transmitters or for bugging devices. Okay, so everybody's already agreed to that in advance. That's just one example of a possible security procedure. Another possible security procedure might be that, hey, you know what? We're not going to accept people into this militia team unless we know that for sure that they've lost people, that the Soviets have actually already killed members of their family. Okay, because now we know that for sure that they're not going to want to compromise with the Soviets, that they're not going to want to work with them under any circumstances. So that's another possibility. But by the same token, we want to be sure that we're not bringing people into the team that are so hateful of the Soviets because, let's say, they killed their entire family, that they're suicidal to the point where they will attack the Soviets in such a way that will compromise the entire team. So again, these are all considerations. With these because that's what this is. This is a list of considerations. It's not like prior videos where I said, okay, this is an L ambush, this is how that's executed, or these are, like, let's say, militia formations, this is what they look like. Okay, this is not so cut and dry. This is simply a list of considerations for the commander and his militia to think about and decide, what the cost benefits are, what will be the best for them to employ. Okay, so close, as I was saying, we have if we're close to the Soviet base, we have the benefit of easier access to information and supplies. If we're further away, we can possibly have a better security or easier security considerations within the team. Okay, now if we're further away, right, we're probably going to have a very concentrated group, right? The whole group will be camping together, okay, or living together if they're in a remote safe house or in a cabin. They're going to be concentrated, and it's going to be a smaller group, right? It can only be a group of, let's say, somewhere between 5 to 10 people, because it's basically you got to feed these people every day, 3 times a day. So that means that you now have to bring all this food all the way out to that remote location. Okay, so if we're in an isolated area, we're most likely going to have a very small group. Okay, if our base is located close to the Soviets, right, then we have options. We can either have a concentrated group or we can have a dispersed group. Okay, and the groups can also be larger. Okay, because again, we're closer to the populated area, so we have easier access to supplies. The problem with being if we have, let's say, a concentrated group, right, in a populated area, well, first of all, there's more people around, right, more even civilians that might be collaborating or that might be willing to trade information with the Soviets for food, or maybe, let's say, to get one of their family members released from prison. You're going to have people that are willing to work with the Soviets. So if you've got, let's say, 10 guys, living together in one house or in one, let's say, apartment, that's going to draw attention. Okay, so that's one of the issues with being concentrated. inside a populated area. Okay. Now, if we disperse the group, okay, if we break the group out, we have them living in a couple of different houses or a couple of different locations. Well, now we have a different security concern, because we don't know what happens to the group once it breaks up. We don't know what members might have been compromised. Who might have been caught, tortured, or maybe they caught him and they find out who his family is, and now they're holding his family hostage. So we're going to have, we have that vulnerability if we disperse the group. We don't know what's going on to our members. Okay, so that's a disadvantage of the two disadvantages of being close to the Soviets, having our base located close to them. Okay, now if we are close to the Soviets, and we're in basically towns or cities, we are what I call street and building vulnerable. Okay, so if the Soviets basically figure out where we are, they start closing in on our position. The streets basically kind of form boundaries that we really can't cross without being seen. Okay, we try to cross the street. We're open to fire if they try to kind of box us in. And what's going to happen is they're going to box us in, and they'll basically destroy the whole building, or carpet bomb the whole road. Okay, so that's one of the vulnerabilities of being in a town or a city. Now, one of the ways we can work around that is if we can create tunnels, under the streets, that go from building to building. That might be a way to work around that, and it helps if we're in an area that already has pre-existing tunnel systems like subways, steam lines, sewage, so that's one way we can kind of work around that. Now, if we're in an isolated area, we are what I call sky vulnerable. The Soviets can fly helicopters over the forest, and pilots are trained. They know what they're looking for. They'll fly up early in the morning, and they're looking for campfires that are burning out. Okay, they'll see the smoldering smoke from the campfires. Even back in the 1980s, mid-1980s, when this is the scenario that we're talking about, they would have access to some early thermal imaging devices, so they'll be able to see, like five to 10 bodies camping out. That might also be a giveaway, especially if it's in the, after in the wintertime when the leaves have fallen, people sleeping, or gathered together in the forest that might show up on thermal imaging, even the early ones that they had back in the 1980s. But certainly early morning, easiest thing, you're flying over, you're looking for camp, smoke from campfires. There are camouflaging techniques that they will come up with and perfect, but we're still going to be sky vulnerable. Okay, so and finally, one of the advantages of being in an isolated area is training. Okay, we're able to, we might even be able to do some live fire exercises. We can certainly get, like if we're planning an attack, we can get to the location. We can do a dry run. Tell people what positions they're going to be, set up the fallback positions. Like I talked about in earlier videos. We can't really do that if we're in a populated area that's close to the Soviets, because we're going to be seen, okay, either by the Soviets or by people that are working with the Soviets. Okay, so there's some ideas for you guys to think about as far as militia security. And if you guys have any questions, comments, please put it in the comment section. I read the comments, and part of the reason why I did this video today is because one of the comments that you guys made. I was planning to do this video anyway, but the comments from you guys made me do it today as opposed to tomorrow. So I love hearing from you guys, and I love hearing your ideas. And if you're not a member of the channel, hit that subscribe button, and also give it the thumbs up, because what happens is if you hit that thumbs up, it shows up in the suggested videos, okay, and also the more subscribers I have in the channel. Again, it comes up as a suggested video, so we're able to get more people into this channel and spread this information around, and also get more ideas, in. And build up a database that I can use to make future videos. Okay, so look forward to talking to you guys again soon. Have a good night.